So you want to play Senja, but you're not sure how to make her good. That's okay. I spent a week playing Senja, so you don't have to. Here's a build guide for Senja to make her OP. If you caught any of my streams recently over on Twitch, you'll notice a theme with the titles. It was something like Senja's OP changed my mind. Well, there's a certain point where a meme becomes reality, and about a week into playing Senja, trying to come up with some way to make Senja good, we may have crossed the line from good into OP. Enter the Juggernaut. So let's take a look at this build guide really quick and explain what's going on and why Senja might be the strongest melee character in the game upon the release of the Juggernaut. So I actually started recording this video yesterday, recorded the whole video on how to start over because I thought, well, maybe I should try Juggernaut before I release the video using the Colossus, her signature weapon, which, mind you, Colossus synergizes really well, but the difference between Colossus and Juggernaut is the difference between a meme about Senja being OP and Senja actually kind of being just mind-blowingly OP. So ignore the flask. Those aren't flask I would recommend using with Senja. Well, let's talk about the affinities first. So the affinity layout for her is going to be 5 instinct, 9 discipline, and 15 focus. If you are currently leveling Senja, I would recommend going for the focus 15 as soon as possible. This is going to be essential to playing her in the hybrid style. Yes, we are talking about a hybrid Senja build. This is not going to be a weapon power build. This is not going to be an ability power build, people. This is going to be Senja doing Senja things, punching stuff and smacking stuff with big smacky stick, okay? That is the goal with this Senja build. It is not a one-trick pony. This is using all of Senja's kit and using it to the fullest effect. After you get the 15 points into focus, I would recommend getting 5 points into instinct, then going for the 9 points into discipline. Here's what you're getting for that. Reduce incoming impact damage while showboating by an additional 20%. Reduce crowd decay by 50%. This makes it slower when you're losing your crowd favor, which is essentially keeping this build up and going and doing massive amounts of damage. Then we got crowd's protection, reduce damage taken while showboating by an additional 10%. This is going to become really important about the middle half of the game while leveling her up. And then we've got crowd's approval. This is where we really get the damage rolling in. You gain 10% ability and weapon power for 5% every time you get that little half bar at the end, that crowd meter number 4 full. And this can happen every 12 seconds. If you're still leveling up Senja, first thing you're going to want to do is get Gladiator's Pummel to 3. This is going to be essential, especially if you're playing Juggernaut. That first ability there is next weapon attack within 5 seconds deals bonus ability damage, and the third is the other part of this magic, increase follow-up weapon damage by 15%. These effects apply to all of the hits from Juggernaut's special ability. Yes, it applies to all of the hits from Juggernaut's special ability. You heard me right, folks. This is where Senja becomes OP, because you're getting that ability power bonus and you're getting that bonus follow-up weapon attack damage for all 4 to 5 hits of the ability on the Juggernaut. Next up, you're going to want to put 3 points into gain favor. This increases the effectiveness of the buff by 50%, increasing your ability and weapon power when you do a full hold on it by even more. Damage taken while showboating during gain favor is reduced by an additional 10%. This allows you basically to use gain favor instead of dodging out of attacks and stuff, because you're reducing so much of the damage while you're using or channeling gain favor that you don't need a dodge or block or anything like that. You just hold down gain favor when you're about to get pummeled and magic happens. You take damage, but not that much damage. Then level 3, increase the crowd favor gained by an additional 50%. This means you get a bar and a half from the gain favor ability. This is going to allow you to get a little sloppy with the punches. You don't have to do the full hold punch. Now, I do recommend you do the full hold punch when possible, but if you've got your meter up to 3 for your weapon special, you might as well do a quick short punch just to get the bonuses applied to your special and unleash that Juggernaut special. When you have the opportunity to, you can use the punch also in a defensive manner to reduce the damage you're about to take, and use that to charge up your meter as well. But having that third point into gain favor is going to allow you to do short punches and long punches depending on the situation. The long punch is good when you need to reduce damage from one enemy, but when you've got 2 or 3 enemies on you, gain favor will reduce the damage much better. But one enemy is kind of the limit for reducing damage while doing a long punch. I would only do that with one enemy. If you're under a lot of enemies, do the short punch and do the Juggernaut special to just delete all those enemies. Your best defense is a really damn good offense. Your last point, we're going to put that into Lightning Grasp. It's going to increase the pull range by 33%. Now let's explain some of the mechanics behind Senja really quick. Crowd Favor, holding the input from the pummel or the favor, it will allow Senja to showboat. While showboating, she cannot be staggered, takes reduced damage, and increases the crowd favor. As the crowd favor increases, Senja gains both weapon power and ability power. Senja was not meant to be a single trick pony. She wasn't meant to have nothing but weapon or attack power, and we played into that while working on this build, and the results were fantastic. The Art of War allows you to charge your weapon ability 15% faster. It also allows you to increase your weapon power by 10% per ability level spent. So if you use a full slam of the Juggernaut, you're going to get 30% increased weapon power for you and your nearby allies, increasing their damage as well. Then the War Master archetype, the Dodge archetype, is going to increase your stamina by 20% and restores some resilience with each roll. Now your resilience is that bar above your health bar that gets depleted as you get hit. This is the break meter you're familiar with seeing on enemies. And this is why we're also building a lot of resilience onto this build. It allows her to be substantially more tanky without taking defensive stats. Now you've got a lot of options for masteries, and if you've seen my Windgrave video, I recommend you take Heavy Hitter or Stalwart Momentum because that was a break build. For this build, however, we are taking only Stalwart Momentum. The reason why this is going to reduce incoming damage by 10% depending on how many momentum bars you have full. At rank 2, it's going to reduce the incoming damage by 15%, basically 5% for each level of momentum you have built up. But the real game changer is right here. Momentum reduces incoming damage by 15% based on how full it is, and upon reaching full momentum, applies a damage shield equal to 10% of your maximum health to you and to nearby allies, and the shield can happen once every 15 seconds. This is part of the reason why we like to take max health with Senja whenever possible. This is going to increase that shield once you have this mastery up to 3, giving her some much needed survivability. So while you're leveling up Senja, your stat priorities are going to be weapon power and ability power as equally as you can get them. Your secondary stat or your primary defensive stat will be resilience upon that point, and then your final stat priority is going to be max HP. We don't care about crit rating or crit power, break power, physical defense, or magic defense in this build at all. You might get some, we don't need them. We only need resilience, max health, weapon power, and ability power. Now, when you get this character to level 30, I would recommend shifting the priority a little bit and prioritizing max health a little bit more than resilience. The echoes we are going to be stacking at level 30 are going to be giving us that resilience automatically, so we don't need to prioritize it on our off slots. For rush echoes, there's 2 echoes we're going to be looking at. One is the Night Maw Echo. Now what this is going to do is when you get hit, you're going to do 125% of your weapon power as damage, plus that is a splash damage attack. It can hit multiple enemies if they're close together. Then you have a magical damage equal to 35% of your ability power every 1.5 seconds for 6 seconds. This ends up being about 140% of your ability power over 6 seconds with a 30-second cooldown. When you've got all of your crowd favor buffed up, this Night Maw Echo actually does substantial amounts of damage, and that's why we recommend putting this into your build. Now, the other Rush Echo we recommend using, and I do use this in the build when I'm not playing with a Venomous or a Windgrave, is the Deposed King. I'll usually use this and the Night Maw Echo at the same time. This has a 20% chance of triggering anytime you kill an enemy and will restore 15% of your max health over 6 seconds with a 30-second cooldown. Now, this is basically every 2 seconds, it's going to heal you for 50% of your maximum health. If you have around 4k max health, that means you're getting 200 health back every tick. Now, here's the bad news, ladies and gentlemen. The echoes you're going to need for this build at max level when you have it completely put together are absolutely insane. You're going to need not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 Hollow 1 echoes. That's right, you need 5 Hollow 1 echoes to keep the ability power in line with the weapon power. The other insane echo you're going to need is Hollow Horror Echo. You actually need 5 of these as well, because for your accessories, you're going to want to keep it equal portions attack to balance. So you need 3 balance and 3 attack echoes in your accessories, or in the combination of your accessories. This echo is going to give us a good chunk of resilience and a lot of weapon power. Weapon power is going to inherently build faster on this build because of the Juggernaut. Then ability power is going to build on it, so we can go with equal portions of Hollow Horror to our Hollow 1 echoes and keep the ability power and weapon power relatively in line with each other. Bloodletters are a good alternative while you're trying to get enough of those Hollow Horror echoes. I use those as my stand-ins for the 2 places I don't have enough Hollow Horror echoes for yet, and the Goblin Sage is a good stand-in for the places that I cannot currently get Hollow 1 echoes. Unfortunately, these are completely in the wrong slots right now because the Bloodletters are going in spots where I should be having Hollow ones, and the Goblin Sages are going in slots where I should have Hollow Horror ones. So if you guys can find a good alternative that will go in the appropriate slot so you can just switch them out 1 to 1, I would recommend only taking your echoes to a capacity of 60 so you can swap them around while you're still trying to get the proper accessories for the build. If you don't want to use 2 rush echoes, or you're playing with a dedicated class like a Windgrave or a Venomous that can keep you relatively good and healthy, and you don't need that Deposed King, slapping a Ickerling into that second rush slot is a good option. I would put Ickerling in here if you need more weapon power, or put another ability power, a low-level ability power echo in here if you need more ability power. Blood Warden is a good cross echo for this build. If you've got one, it works. It gives you max health and resilience. Honestly, we would prefer to have a Blood Berserker echo. Yes, Blood Berserker is in the game. They are very difficult to get your hands on though, okay? Blood Warden, a little bit easier to get, not super easy, but it's a good cross for this build because that max health and resilience. Ideally, we want the Blood Berserker because that's going to give us more ability power and a little bit of weapon power, kind of helping with that synergy balance between the 2 stats. For a cheap defensive echo, Frostbeak Echo is kind of easy to get and has been the one I've been going for. I would like to find a better echo to put in the slot with either max health and resilience, or a lot of max health, just max health, or a lot of resilience. But the Frostbeak is not bad. It gives us a relatively healthy amount of max health, and there's not a lot of good echoes to give you max health. This is going to be our 1 defensive slot in the entire build. Make it count. Definitely stick with defense on this one. You're going to need either resilience or max health to stay alive with this build regardless. So there you guys have it. That is the build that made Senja OP. If you guys have any questions about the build, let me know in the comment section down below. If you guys are catching this video the day it's being released, I will be live over on Twitch playing the Senja build because oh boy, do I have a lot of farming still to do to finish up this build. I still need 2 Hollow ones and 2 Hollow Horror echoes and 2 more really rare accessories for this build. For accessory priority, I would recommend trying to get accessories that give you both weapon and ability power, preferably 3 stats. If you can get 3 stats, you want weapon power, ability power, max health, or one of the power stats with max health and resilience would be the ideal stat allocation for your accessories. Golden Cloak is a really good one to be able to get your hands on. Another 2 accessories you can try to get relatively easy is that Raven Skull Focus and the Goblin Disassembly Kit. They're not bad to get you started, but ideally you want 2 more accessories with ability and weapon power, and those are going to be really hard to get at level 30, and we really need to get them at level 30 for those 60 echo capacity echoes that we're going to be putting into them while we try to finish up the build. If you guys made it this far into the video, make sure to like the video. I really appreciate it, and leave a comment down below. It helps with the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe for more Wayfinder content, and I will catch you guys over on the Twitch channel live. The link is in the video description down below. Until next time, Wayfinders, happy hunting.